Imagine your inner child, your child or your grandchild. You're 7 years old looking up at the sky. You have a fascination with life on other planets. Do aliens have dreams? Do they have pets? Do they go to school? Do they fly around in rocket ships to their friends' houses? You wonder, will you ever visit another planet in your lifetime? And suddenly, you look down and you see a blue light and a screen. Suddenly, that imagination starts to dim. This is the experience of hundreds and millions of young people around the world today. 40% of toddlers in America have devices before they even go to preschool. The average teenager in America will spend 30 years of their life behind a screen. That means every single moment that I've lived up until the one that I'm on this stage today. But what we don't talk about is that there can be two different realities with the screen. The first reality, take that same child. He comes home from a really hard day at school. Maybe someone bullied him. Maybe he had a really hard math test. He races right to his bedroom and pulls out his iPad. He loves aliens too. He goes on YouTube, it starts with a video, and suddenly he's consuming for hours. What starts with a fascination and curiosity leads to passive consumption. His mother calls him down to dinner, not once, not twice, but 3 times. He doesn't hear her. He's disconnected and irritable and alone. He went to that screen because it felt safer than feeling his own emotions. That doesn't have to be the reality. There can be a whole other one. This time, his mother invites him to the table. She says, "What do you imagine?" They pull out the iPad together and pull out Sora. He says, "Mom, I imagine that when aliens are happy, they glow up. And when they're sad, they dim. And that there are zebras that are painted in purple with glowing wings that fly through the sky like angels." And she says, "We can create that." And suddenly in that moment, technology becomes magic. And he becomes the center of that story generated by AI that becomes a movie. And she says, "It's time for bed, but tomorrow night, we'll create the next chapter to this story together." The same child, the same screen, two entirely different realities for humanity. My name is Larz May. Most people call me Larz. I'm a digital wellness activist. I've spent the last 10 years building a movement to empower young people in the digital age. I do this work because 10 years ago, I almost lost my life on the campus right down the street at Vanderbilt University. I'm a survivor of the challenges of the digital age. And 10 years ago, when I emerged from the darkness of the night and I saw the potential that blue light had to change humanity, I knew that I never wanted another parent or child to navigate this alone again. Over the last 10 years, I've been everywhere from the Middle East to France to Australia. I've helped create regulations in a world where kids have no emotional regulation. But what I've learned is something that you might be very surprised to hear. We're not in a technology crisis. We're in a joy crisis. And technology is rewiring us that way. What if joy was the most powerful technology our children would ever have? When I grew up, joy, imagination was the baseline. I didn't grow up with phones in schools, having to choose between human connection on the playground or connecting with my favorite TikTok influencer. Today, we're fighting for phone-free schools. We're fighting for a world where we can fight for our kids to simply have peace of mind and experience joy again. We are at a critical turning point in our world. Humanity and technology are converging. So many of our children are being hooked as passive consumers in the digital world like I was. What I've realized is that we have to retrain our minds for joy, and we have to strengthen the imagination muscle. So today, I'd like to introduce the concept of the joy loop. While big tech has made hundreds of millions and billions of dollars off of our attention and hooking us in the doom loop of fear, I know that another reality is true because I've seen children change before me for the last 10 years. The joy loop is the concept that when we pick up technology with a positive intention or an intention at all, that we can engage with it in a meaningful way. We can imagine, we can move our children into flow states, which is actually one of the most addictive states for humanity that's positive. And the more that we practice that, we can get into a cycle of joy and growth and build a future where our kids are creators and innovators as opposed to passive consumers. But we were never taught that, and neither are our kids. We were taught to believe that we have to live in the doom loop because the doom loop is what makes billions of dollars a year. The doom loop is the moment that we pick up our devices because we're feeling a certain way. Maybe we're bored. Maybe we're sad. Maybe we're simply distracted. But when we pick up technology, and our kids do, without a reason to be, we get put into a cycle of consumption. It might start as a video with an alien and a curiosity, but it ends watching a child on a battleground fighting for their life. Our children did not fear this because they didn't know this. And we must preserve the joy and curiosity in their precious minds. We live in a world where the average child is spending 8 hours a day in the doom loop. What do you think that does to their future? Do you want to spend 30 years of your life behind a screen, or do you want to chase your dreams? But we, as parents and grandparents and leaders, have to get our children to believe that with a different input of joy, through joy reps, that we can lead to a joyful existence. And that joy is practical. What you might not know is that the place in a young mind's brain where joy is created, or the imagination muscle, is the same part of the brain that we develop empathy, compassion, and problem solving. So when we live in a world where artificial intelligence is at war with infinite awareness, we have to unlock joy to preserve humanity in a world where humans and technology are becoming one. So what does that really look like? Is achieving joy in a world that profits off of darkness possible? And yes, I know it is, and I believe it is because I've seen it every day. And like every other muscle that we strengthen, joy and imagination can be strengthened too. If there's one thing you take from this moment today, I want it to be the practice of the joy loop. I want you to find the child in your life, or perhaps your inner child. I want you to, instead of taking that device into your room to escape from the fear and the doom of the world, to sit down with that device, or perhaps put it away and take out the building blocks and the clay to see what type of world you can create. Because if you spend just 20 minutes a day in the joy loop, and you show and you model to your children and grandchildren that that is possible, then child by child and family by family, we can create hundreds and millions of young creators instead of consumers. And what that looks like is an entirely different generation than the one that the world believes will happen. Artificial intelligence is not our most powerful technology. Joy is. Let's raise humans again. Thank you.